Welcome to the Communications Essentials Podcast, Season 1, Episode 2. And Mike, we had been hoping to get back here a little sooner, but here we are. I mean, it's Episode 2 when we say it's Episode 2.
That's right. It's like that break between long seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm or something like that. We'll do it when we're ready and not a second sooner. I hope we're ready.
I think we're ready. I think so.
We're ready.
Well, we are definitely ready to talk about, as you guys know, this podcast, it's about communication essentials, the things that matter most today in business. And today we have our guest, Jan Gusich, founder of Akhia Communications, to talk to us about what essentials never go out of style. So despite all the things that if you came today to hear all the exciting trends, you might want to just stop listening now, because we're not talking about those. We're talking about the things that we will always need and never go out of style. Jan, tell us a little bit about you. What's going on?
You make me sound like I'm the old person in the room. Here's all the new stuff, but boy, we brought in the oldie but goodie to focus on the stuff that is still valid today. Right. So most of you know, I founded Akhia 25 years ago. I recently semi-retired, mostly not involved in the day-to-day. Of course, we leave that to Ben and Mike and others at the company. But I do some international work, and I do some crisis communications for the organization. And somehow in retirement, I have found myself on 4 nonprofit boards. So keeping pretty busy, and then trying to fit in some visits with the 2 grandkids who live right down the street. So still pretty busy these days, and really enjoying this new chapter.
What about Akhia favorite, Camille? Do you spend any time with Camille?
Only happy hours with popcorn and red wine. So.
Oh, okay. Well, we're glad to have you. And joking aside, it is true. I told Chad, no, I'm not trying to hide it at all. I still reference a lot of the essentials that I learned from her, and when I started in year 4 at Akhia of our 25 years, that are still relevant today. And I think that despite everything swirling around, it is very helpful to realize a lot of things do come full circle, and you need to come back to these things, never get away from these things. And to help illustrate our things coming full circle is Mike with his random thought for today. What do you got?
The random thought. Okay, well, this is a communication essential, and I was thinking of some essentials, food, clothing, shelter, and give me something good to watch. that is an essential. And I thought back, as you said, think back to 20 years, how things have been changing over 20 years and how things might be coming back to be the same. So 20 years ago, I did Netflix DVD by mail for the first time. I don't know, you guys probably did the same thing for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 20 years.
It was the greatest. Don't have to go to a video store, just go through the menu. I would be thinking, how are they able to do this? How are they paying the postage? How is this happening? But it was fabulous. But it ultimately killed the video store, but it gave me something good to watch. It gave me choices for that. And I remember about a few years later, they went into streaming, and it's like, I don't even need to get these DVDs. I don't even have to go out to the mailbox anymore, but I could still have something good to watch. I remember in 2013, that was when House of Cards, their first original programming, because till then on streaming, it was just same old stuff, cliffhanger or, some stuff like that. But then they did original content, Stranger Things. I'm drawing a blank a little bit, but I know I watched a lot and I forgot a lot too. But it got to the point where, heck, I don't even need cable anymore, right? I don't need cable. I'm not watching ads. This is great. Netflix has it all. Well, Netflix and Hulu. And Netflix and Hulu and Prime, and Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max and Discovery Plus and Paramount and Peacock and streaming services that sound like sounds like Crackle and Tubi and who knows what else. Who knows? There might even be, they're so specific now. Murder, She Wrote plus, all Murder, She Wrote all the time. So it was like having a set of channels. I'm sure when your smart TV comes up, there's the menu of the different ones you can pick. You can't even fit it all on the screen, right? There's even some you haven't heard of, some I think are made up, but you just go with it. Okay, so with all that, things keep changing. Like you said, Ben, lots changes and a lot changes a lot faster. Do I want to binge? I'll watch Netflix. Do I want to wait a week at a time? I guess I can go to HBO Max or Prime. Do I want ads? Yeah, sure. If I don't want to pay for all of Hulu, because that's how they get you. So you have all this, and suddenly it's not streaming without the commercials. So where are we now? Well, we have multiple providers, which is like multiple channels. I can wait every week to watch something. I can flip from one to the other, and there's ads. So we're back to cable TV. We're back to antenna TV. We did it. At the last 20 years, we came full circle. But that's a little facetious. It's obviously changed. But I do think the constant and all the commotion and all the change give us something good to watch. But with all of this, it's just a slight tweak. Give us everything good to watch. And that's what we have. So that's how it's come full circle with all the change. That's my random long thought. It might be a record, but it's episode 2. I was chomping a bit.
Well, yeah, it's been a while, and we're going to build off that. I have a question at the end I'm going to throw back at you guys. Kevin got off in the first episode. We did not ask him this question, but we are going to bring in a question at the end.
Okay.
So, but when you talked about that, it made me think like it ties in perfectly, because the thing that matters in all those things that you mentioned, we could all find our favorites on those. And Jan, we could talk for hours about what we're watching and streaming, but it comes back to the story. The story is always the essential. The characters are always the essential. So no matter how much those things have changed, even coming back full circle, it's still rooted in some fundamental pieces. And I think the same thing is true for business today, because I'm as caught up in trying to predict and look at where companies need to be focused and everything that there is a place for that, and that does matter. But I think, Jan, you always held us accountable to really fundamental principles to help us no matter where we found ourselves, what time, outside situations, housing crisis, 9/11, all the things that have happened to us over the 20 years. And those things never have gone away. Those have been fundamental to build on. So that was the question I asked you. I said, could you tell us what you think, give us 3, trying to narrow it down to 3, but give us the big 3 in your opinion. So what's the first thing that you think from a communication essential standpoint never will go out of style?
Well, I'm going to give you those 3 in a second, but after listening to you, Mike, do that whole thing about, we started here, we've gone really far, and now we've come full circle. It made me think about something that I've been doing lately, and it is a communications essential, although it's not one of my big 3s, but it's about all the ways we have to communicate today, from e-blasts and evites and texts and video PDFs and craziness.
Yeah.
The thing I've been doing the most lately is handwriting notes to people. And I'm telling you, if you really want to make an impact and get someone's attention, write a handwritten note to them. There is nothing more exciting than when you go to your mailbox and you're like flipping through stuff and you're like, ugh, trash. Ooh, what is this envelope? It's personally addressed to me. And you open it up and it's someone took time to personally write a message to you. So talk about things that have come full circle. It's a communications essential to be personal and to, go out of your way to do something special for people. And, my full circle is just coming right back to handwriting notes. So just made me think about that when you were talking about it.
That's really good. There's something about, the intimacy of it and writing it instead of just typing and that stuff. But I am noticing that marketers are taking that idea and trying to fool us. Because you said, I'll go through the mail, oh, this looks like it's handwritten on the envelope. It must be special. And it's, hi, I'm Pete from Progressive Insurance. Would you like some?
But that doesn't really work, because when you open it, you're not only disappointed, you're annoyed, and you take it and you toss it further into the trash, where something personal and intimate is really can really have remarkable impact. So speaking of intimacy, that's my first one. It's always been something that we've talked about at Akhia, and it's two simple words: customer intimacy, but it means so much. I mean, we talk about how fast things are going. Well, guess what? They're going doubly fast for our customers. The world is changing. The world is changing so fast for them. How they do things, how they go to market, how do they reach people, how they deal with COVID, how do they deal with remote employees, how they deal with remote customers that they can't interact with at trade shows anymore, and all of that. So if we need to constantly remember to put ourselves in our clients' shoes and deal with the things that they're dealing with every day. And our job as an agency is to bring them new solutions all the time, right? New things that are going to, how can we do that if we're not really getting an intimate understanding of what their pain points are, what their problems are, what they need in this moment? And I think it's harder today than ever because we're all so remote to be able to put ourselves in the shoes of our customer on a daily basis. And I'll say one more thing about that and we'll open it up. Customer intimacy also means understanding the industry they work in. So you have to force yourself to not only think about what does my customer need today, but actually go outside of what you're doing today to think, what are their competitors doing? How do they look online? What are they offering? What kinds of new products and solutions are they providing? And when you have that kind of knowledge, you have power, and you can go to your customer with a much more pragmatic and impactful solution, I think. So customer intimacy never goes out of style. And I think we have to work with our young people today to make sure they're really understanding what that means, because they're so far from it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, and it's what I've seen that, speaking of things not going out of style, is the hunger to learn is a big question people have asked is, even at Akhia, where people may not be in front of clients all the time, is they do recognize that they want to have that relationship. And I think that I give a lot of credit to the first wave of Gen Z into the workforce and millennials that are really dealing with the upheaval of how to carry that over and apply it, because they know that, that all of a sudden, instead of maybe getting a tour in person or something like that, they have to find a way to connect on FaceTime or on a screen or through text, and they are working hard to do that. And I think your point of understanding the business is going to be key, because you're starting at a higher level to be able to talk to the client about things that they will have an understanding of, because otherwise throwing trends and ideas at them, it doesn't feel, so like Mike said, it's like you're taking a stab at throwing this mail into the mailbox and hoping that it makes the connection. But you need to have some understanding of what you're talking to them, otherwise you're just talking at them. Right. So it's trying to tailor the time you have with them better. Like these meetings all of a sudden have become much more meaningful. Even internally, I was telling somebody that the other day, I said, walking by an office, you might say hi to somebody 6 times, but you won't stop and talk to them all the time. Now, if I might only see them once during the course of the day, but I'm talking to them more meaningfully because we're in front of each other and I'm not just in passing. So it's about adjusting that, because you can't lose that intimacy. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like that you just said was you're not talking at them. And I think that's truly the point about customer intimacy, because you can change your language. So instead of just saying things like, here's a new trend, or here's what we should try, if you're really intimate with your customer and their problems, their pain points, and what's happening in their industry, you can say to them things like, I was on your competitor's website and I noticed this. Yeah. Or I was at a trade show and what I heard is the biggest complaint from your customers is this. Boy, you will instantly see your customer pick up and listen so much more intently, because they get that you care about their business enough to learn about it, to learn about their pain points, and to learn about their industry. And it's a whole different way of changing your language to be more customer-centered. So,
yeah, very good.
And I think the other point that we have to remember, today is we don't have, as managers of employees, they don't have that example working alongside us anymore. So, we just pop up on a screen,
Yeah.
and there we are, and we have limited time. And so we hurry up and we rush through things. Back in the old days of 2 years ago, there would be a 15-minute pre-meeting, prep time. They would get to see how you interact with your customer, how you have a personal relationship with them. They would see how you ease into questions and do all those nuanced things that develop a relationship with a customer. We don't have any of that today. So it's incumbent on us as managers to find ways to pass along these tried and true and proven strategies to the new generation.
Yeah, you hit it there with the nuances and what we're not able to observe. We're on screen right now talking to each other, and we're lacking a little bit of the body language, even though I can talk with my hands like this. But just those cues you pick up, we're not able to pick up as much because we're not in the same physical space. So it behooves us to listen a lot more closely, not just to what we're talking about now, but trying to make the head a computer a little bit and store that for a little bit later that you can bring up. Hey, remember about a week ago when you mentioned this, hey, we found an option here. It goes back to Netflix, a romantic comedy on Netflix where he wins back the girl because he remembered that she liked, I don't know, salt and pepper shakers that look like pandas, and he brought that back. That type
I think
of
that's a Hallmark movie.
but in the seriousness, it's that callback is like, oh, you remembered what we said before. It's a key that, hey, you remembered, you care, you stayed with the conversation beyond just the conversation. And I think that's just one more ingredient to building that intimacy.
And you know what? Today the other thing it takes is the ability to push ourselves out of our comfort zone more than ever, because we're all getting I can't speak for everybody, but it feels like the people I talk to are getting super comfortable with, not getting out of their pajama bottoms and, not, maybe not, going to do customer research or, visit brokers or visit distribution centers or, go watch a customer interact with your product. We're getting so comfortable staying in our box that you almost have to push yourself outside of your box a little harder and a little more than we've ever had before. I would do this crazy stuff like on the way to work. I would take a detour and go stop at a wholesaler, a floral wholesaler. I'm like, oh, they're on my way. I want to go see what's going on there. What products are they carrying? Because our customer was in the floral business. Well, just a simple thing like that. I'm not out and about anymore, so I don't do those things anymore. You have to force yourself, write them down, put them on your calendar, and make sure you do the things that are getting you closer and more intimate with your customer on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's a perfect transition to your second point, because you talk about once you start doing that, now I'm going to steal your line because I actually want to use it to ask you a question. So you had said exceeding expectations, because I think what you just described is setting and exceeding expectations in the sense of they wouldn't, and I know the story you're referencing, and I know the examples you're giving, because people would never expect you to stop at a wholesaler, or they would never expect you to, like, I remember one time I was on vacation and I visited a store that was featuring our client, and I sent a picture and like, why are you there? You're on vacation. I was like, because I'm in a different market. I want to see, like, it's just about making the connection, and that is tied to expectations. If you do start to build those now, so Jan, now it's not out of style, but in this environment, our ecosystem, as you know, at Akhia, is work from anywhere. So we're always pushing ourselves to define, those expectations. What are some things people can keep in mind when they're trying to set and then exceed those expectations as they apply it to today's environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we have to first start with the fact that exceeding expectations changes. It changes all the time. So we founded Akhia. On the mission board, I wrote, exceed customer expectations. That was our very first mission. But, the expectations of the customers back 25 years ago are completely different than they are for customers today. And when you're exceeding expectations, let's not forget what we talked about, customer intimacy, but we all work in environments with multiple layers. So exceeding expectations might be in your workplace too.
You could also look at that internally too. Like, you kind of shift my perspective a little bit when you talked about who your expectations differ on who you're talking to. It creates modeling opportunities.
Sure.
If you're talking to a coworker about a book, take the extra step and send them the book with a note and say, let's follow up in 2 months and talk about your take on this book. So that's a really good way. That applies to a lot of different audiences and channels. So I like that. Your last one is the one I have heard you say the most. I've heard you, of course, talk about the other things as well, but this last one, it is stuck in a lot of different places in Akhia lore and presentations and everywhere. So give us the last one, the short and simple.
Yeah,
but maybe the biggest.
It's the most simple, but it's often the hardest. And it's just do the right thing. Just do the right thing. And again, it doesn't matter if we're talking about our employees, our coworkers, or our customers. And I say it's hard because sometimes doing the right thing isn't the best thing for maybe business strategy or growth, but sometimes it is the right thing to do. As hard as it is, sometimes sometimes the benefits don't pay off for a longer time, so maybe you have to make a difficult decision. Maybe we have to tell a client something that they don't want to hear, for example, but you owe it to yourself and that client to do the right thing and tell them. And it might be painful in the beginning. You might even lose that client, but at the end of the day, you're going to be able to say, I did the right thing, and whether that client understood it at the moment and listened and or not, it doesn't matter. Because, I've always said this, after 25 years of business, I look in the mirror and I think I've always done the right thing, whether it was painful or not. And at the end of the day, it serves you well to do right by people.
Could not say it better myself. Does not go out of style, and it's like a Twinkie, Jan. That line will be around
a creamy
forever.
Filling.
It will survive no matter what. So Jan, what did we not cover that you would want to share? Anything that we missed as we conclude here?
No, I think we've got it all. I was doing some reading in Harvard Business Review, and they talked a little bit about customer, what did they call it, Ben? I told you about it before. Some empathy for
prioritize empathy.
Prioritize empathy. Yeah. But I think that's sort of an underpinning of each of the things we've talked about today. Because if you have empathy for your clients and your coworkers and your managers, then you are automatically putting yourself in their shoes and trying to understand where they're coming from and how you can be of help to them. So I do like that whole idea of prioritizing empathy. When I read it, I thought that's smart. It's a smart strategy, but it's also a smart way to conduct your life. So those are my big 3 and bonus 4.
Well, I think it's easy to see, how we've been able to build and grow the way we have when you hear those things. And a lot of these, as we talk about these, a lot of these and trends, of course, are covered and blogged about and dissected over at essentials.akhia.com. As we talk about this will be living there as well, along with our other podcasts. So I promised a question at the end. It's a fun one.
God.
So it has nothing to do with anything you just said, but it popped into my head, and this is how we do it. So Mike was talking about things coming full circle, and he said Murder, She Wrote, which just triggered a question in my head. With all the reboots, what show are you more in favor of rebooting? What we've already seen The Equalizer get rebooted and many others, but that one popped into my head. Murder, She Wrote or Matlock? Which one?
Ooh.
Or maybe Cagney and Lacey? Which one?
They are rebooting those, right?
They're rebooting those?
I
don't know.
swear
I don't
I
think so.
read that Murder, She Wrote is coming back in a new version,
Really?
in a new way.
Oh my gosh.
There.
But
Well,
I'd go for Matlock because he was kind of cute in the day.
You're going Matlock. Okay, Mike, what are you picking?
I'm Murder, She Wrote. I'm a mystery guy. I even watched Murder, She Wrote when it was on, and I was like 10. I think it came out. Like, I think it was on at the same time as MacGyver, and I would tape MacGyver to watch Murder, She Wrote when it aired. And it's not like everybody was talking about it at school the next day, and I had to watch it. It's like, it was a preference. So for me,
I don't think
Murder,
anybody was.
Matlock isn't bad either. I liked Matlock too, like Grandpa Simpson and all his. But Murder, She Wrote for me. Ben?
Oh, I'm going Matlock. I mean, it's got to be the blue suit, Andy Griffith Matlock. It's, I'm tying it. But Murder, She Wrote, like it. I think it got an unfair shake because you said MacGyver, which I think MacGyver was Mondays. So Murder, She Wrote was Sundays because it was right after, I think right after 60 Minutes. So it made me think like, oh gosh, I hate 60-minute clock was bad enough when I was a kid because it meant like got to get ready for bed. And the school week's going to start, but then like Murder, She Wrote meant like, yeah, your weekend is definitely over now. And now the kids today, they have Sunday night football. They get that, like, they're having fun right up to the last minute. Like, we would have killed for some Sunday night football back in my day. Yeah. Well, good. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for entertaining my triviality as usual. Jan, you were great. I know you're always nervous about doing these, and I promise I won't make you watch it, but hopefully many others do. I think the information you shared is critical to keep in mind, essential, if you will.
Yes.
And if you do promote this, do not freeze frame it with me be in one of those like awkward.
Well, you just gave us the promo image.
There it is.
There it is. All right. Well, thank you guys. Mike, great stuff as always. We'll be back. Mike and I'll be back with episode 3 whenever we want to. Okay.
Right. It could be the special holiday episode at Christmas.
You don't know.
It could be July 4th. We don't know.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you later.